Alright boys, Ill's developers just dropped a massive FAQ, and buried inside it are confirmations about dismemberment, weapon jamming, UE5 only tech, and some absolutely unhinged enemy behavior. Let's break down what actually matters. So I picked out the most important and interesting questions to me from this Q&A. I'll leave the link to the full Q&A somewhere down in the comments or whatever. But alright, let's get into it. The first heading is general game information and development. So the first question is, what percentage of the game has been developed? They say it's hard to give an exact percentage, but we've already passed a major internal milestone. The pre-production phase is fully complete. We now have a clear and detailed vision of all the game's content, and we're deep in the active production of enemies, locations, and everything else that brings the world to life. The story is locked in, and we've recently started filming the cutscenes. A significant part of the journey is behind us, but there's still plenty of work ahead. So let's break down this answer. So they don't want to throw out a number like 60% done, because that always backfires if timeline shifts. Studios avoid percentages unless they're close to launch. Also, in case people are wondering, pre-production in game development is the critical planning phase before full-scale production, where the core concept, mechanics, story, and art style are defined and documented. It aims to create a game design document, a GDD, for those of you not in the know, and prototypes to validate ideas, establish a project scope, and minimize risk, ultimately ensuring a smoother, more efficient development cycle. Games that die usually die before or during the pre-production phase. Clearing this phase means that the project is real and stable, which I feel like this game has been around for so long, so I feel like there is definitely some talk if this game was ever real or ever coming to the light. Basically, Ill is past the risky phase. The planning is done, the story is locked, cutscenes are being filmed, and the team is fully focused on building and polishing the game, which usually means it's somewhere around the halfway to two-thirds mark. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, so the next question somebody asked is, how much has the game's scope or overall vision changed since the original concept videos? And they say, since we released our first concept trailers back in 2021, we've gone through a lot of refining, figuring out exactly what the game will be, how big it will be, and where we're going to make it happen. As development, actually I want to go back to that because if anybody remembers, it was going to be in like an old small town or something, and then it changed to what you guys have seen in the trailers, the fort concept, I'll call it. But yeah, so now where they're going to make it happen is the fort. But alright, so as development progressed, some early ideas were dropped while others evolved or expanded. The monsters, for example, became more varied and expressive, which is always good. That's fucking sick. The world has grown larger and more intricate, and the story itself has become stronger and deeper. So yes, the game has become more ambitious in many ways, but the core vision is still the same. And we're building the next experience we believed from... What? The core vision is still the same, and we're building the experience we believed in from the start. So they're really concentrated. They know exactly what they want in this game. In all my game dev research, that is exactly where you want to be in the mindset kind of phase. But so basically the early trailers were a vibe check, if you will. Since then, the team refined the scope, cut ideas that didn't work, expanded the ones that did, and deepened both the monsters and the story. The game is bigger and more complex now, but it's still the same Ill they set out to make. Why this is actually reassuring? They didn't promise everything shown in 2021, they just adjusted scope instead of blowing up, like crumbling, like their business or whatever you want to call it. The monsters and stories got better, not simpler. The vision didn't get compromised, if you will. Alright, so the next heading on the list is platforms, pricing, and technical details. There was only, it looks like 2 questions that I picked out. And they ask, will there be a demo? And short answer, no. There will not be. They are really busy doing everything else and expanding and getting torqued or whatever they're doing over there, making things great. But yeah, so no demo on that. And then the next question is more of a tech one. And it's, will the game include advanced technologies like DLSS, FSR, XESS, and or RTX/DXR ray tracing, global illumination, reflections, ambient occlusion, or shadows? And they say yes, it will support advanced upscaling technologies like DLSS and FSR to ensure smoother performance and high visual fidelity across a wide range of hardware. We're also aiming to implement ray tracing features such as global illuminations, Let's just pretend I said that right. Reflections, ambient occlusion, and shadows all push the game's atmosphere and visual realism even further. Oh my god. And then, I guess actually there's 3. They say, or somebody asked, is VR mode a possibility at all? And I would love that. Please do that. They say, I was just gonna cut this answer, make it a little bit shorter, but I'll read a little bit of it. They actually think VR is really exciting avenue, and they admire how much franchises like Resident Evil introduced VR modes well after launch. So I guess I'll just stop there, because it sounds like they are definitely into it, but they want to get this game made and out to everyone. And then, honestly, they'll probably, take a look-see at it. Maybe try and do it a little bit. But alright, so the next heading is, gameplay and story content. Somebody asked, how long will the game be? They say, we want the experience to be tightly focused with no slowdowns and constant tension that keeps players on edge. The gameplay length should feel just right, not overstaying its welcome like many recent games do, but also not leaving players wishing there was more. I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna get to the end and be like, alright, where's the DLC, baby? But they also say their aim is for the average playtime between those who rush through the story and those who like to take their time exploring to be around 10 to 12 hours. This is just an estimate. I'm hoping it's longer, but 10 to 12 hours, it's... just because it's shorter doesn't mean it's going to be bad, I think if they're talking about pacing, they're probably making sure you're going to be on the edge of your seat like the whole time. But the next question, will ill feature other human characters? Can we expect dialogues or cutscenes as part of the overall story? Well, they said they were filming cutscenes, so I would say absolutely. But they say since the game is story-driven, you can expect plenty of cinematic cutscenes with a range of memorable characters, each with their own motives. You'll never be quite sure who to trust or what's coming next. Gang. Boom. Perfect. Will there be any interactable NPCs, someone asked. Yes, you'll be able to interact with these characters, and sometimes they'll play a role in completing certain objectives. Interesting. The next question, is the game fully focused inside the facility, or will we be able to explore other locations? Actually, I think I might have missed this question when I was reading through this, so I'm glad I put it in here. The Mysterious Fort will feature plenty of ominous enclosed spaces that create a real sense of claustrophobia and isolation, all while you're being hunted by vicious monsters and the grand evil behind them. So there's going to be like kind of a Wesker kind of guy maybe lurking around. But anyway, but shown in our official SGF 2025 trailer, the game will also include more open areas, including outdoor locations and broad daylight. We're especially excited to make those sections just as tense and terrifying to explore. You've seen how someone blew a monster's head off in the street, and that's just a glimpse of what's waiting for you out there. Oh yeah. Nice. But something I wanted to touch on, if they're gonna show these things in the daylight, they must be pretty confident they're pretty freaky, and I think that's what attracted me to Ill in the first place, is that the monsters are just, they're so good. You blow them up, blow little chunks out of them, that's sick. We all love that. But alright, on to the next question. Will the main character be voiced or silent? The main character will be voiced. Since the story is central to the experience, full of twists and unsettling revelations, it's important to convey his emotions clearly. So, we're a male character. I think we all kind of knew that, though. Some pretty rough hands. He has personal high stakes in the narrative, and hearing his voice and thoughts helps deepen that emotional connection. Of course, I think this is a very great choice. I like it. It's good. Alright, so the next heading is probably one everybody's pretty interested in. I think it's the last one that I picked out of all of them. But it is combat, weapons, and mechanics. Will there be character progression or weapon upgrades, or is it just all story-based loot? Yes, you'll definitely be able to upgrade your weapons using a workbench. As you progress and collect resources, you'll not only improve weapon stats, but if you're observant enough, you might also find attachments that can be installed on various weapons. The character's equipment will also expand over time as you come across items that let you access new areas or reach places that were previously out of reach. That'd be really cool if there was a grappling hook from like Dying Light or something like that. Dying Light the first one, because that one was like boom and like get up on that building real quick. They haven't done that again. I wish they would. And hopefully, maybe they do in this game, but I probably kind of doubt it. But either way, will gun maintenance be a factor, causing jams? Question mark. Yes, that's right. You'll need to take care of your weapons and make sure they don't jam at the worst possible moment. Tarkov. But which could cost your life. Yes. Excuse me. What kind of inventory management have you implemented? We really like how inventory management is handled in Resident Evil 4 Remake. So while we take inspiration for that, we're aiming to put our own spin on it. We want to be we want it to be convenient for storing rare resources you find, and at some point to be able to craft items that can determine the outcome of a fight. We'll share more details about this system closer to the game's release. I just feel like I did it in one of my videos, but this game is just definitely going to be compared to Resident Evil for sure. And you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing, because competition is usually a good thing, you know? But alright, so another question, is the revolver the only pistol, or will there be a semi-auto option too? The revolver definitely won't be the only gun. There will be a wide variety of weapons, not just handguns, but also much heavier firepower like a shotgun, rifles, and more. And without spoiling too much, you can also expect some wicked crafty weapons. Maybe some, like, Dead Rising type stuff. Where's the duct tape? Anyway. Will there be sharp melee weapons? Absolutely, they say. In addition to firearms, your arsenal will include various melee weapons that let you tear through monsters in truly gruesome ways. I think their dismemberment system and their body deformation, whatever they're calling it, I think it's honestly some of the best in the gaming industry. I don't think nothing really else comes to mind about dismemberment. I mean, it's pretty gruesome. I think it's gonna be pretty wild. Somebody asked, can we kick enemies in game, and how does it work? Melee parry pushback damage? Yes, kicking is a regular gameplay mechanic. The only limitation is that it can consume stamina, as it does in real life, you know. And functionally, it acts as a push to interrupt enemy attacks. I didn't really think that was the last one, but that's the last question. Alright, let's get to my final thoughts. So after reading all of this, it feels like a game with a very clear identity. They say the planning phase is done, the vision is locked, and the team is deep in production. The scope has grown, but not in a messy way, you can kind of tell. It's more refined and more detailed and more confident. This is a survival action horror through and through, weapon management, meaningful upgrade, tense inventory decisions, and enemies that act to damage instead of just soaking bullets. Well, I mean, there's not a lot of games with bullet spongy enemies. Feel like they know that we're not super into that anymore. But also, they're committing fully to next-gen tech, avoiding over-promises and staying focused on the core experience. I think it's really important that they touched on that they didn't lose their way, basically, is I think what they're trying to say. Because it's very easy to have publishers come in and be like, yo, change this, do this, and sometimes they have to if they want to put some bread on the table, you know? But yeah, that's it, everyone. Have a good day, and I'll be back at some point.